I am from Brooklyn, New York. I'm an interior designer and I have offices in Tribeca and also in Miami. I was raised in a family with women who were very fashion forward. So the sense that you could like change the way you feel, the way you look with clothing, with hairstyle, with patterns, with like different cuts of clothing. That was kind of part of my mentality growing up. My mom is a fashion consultant for Kleinfeld Bridal. Not like directly related to interior design, but just like having the idea that you could change somebody's perspective by using objects, basically clothing. And I was always very creative as a child. I was always kind of playing with paints and markers, and my family really, they supported me in that a lot. And then I went to Pratt Institute and I started my major in fine arts because that's what I was interested in. And as I moved through my freshman and sophomore year, I spoke to a few professors and they were like, Karen, like you have a technical mind, like maybe you should go look at the architecture or interior design department. And I went and I looked, and that's when I kind of had this moment where I was like, oh, I can make three-dimensional art that is like occupiable. And that's how I started to think about the two-dimensional like paintings and drawings I was doing in 3 dimensions. I started working for a Greek architect when I was very young, almost right out of school. The firm was called Costas Kondylis, and they worked for some very, very big corporate developers. So like the Carlyle Group, Extel, Related, the Trump Organization, solo building companies, like they were designing skyscrapers for these massive development companies. And for the first 13 years of my career, those are the types of projects that I worked on. So it really allowed me, like it's an education that I couldn't replicate or pay for again, It shaped the way that I think about not just structure of design, but of structure of a business and how leadership works in a larger sense. So you have, money funneling into these projects from different, investors, right? You have money funneling into these projects from different investors. And if you understand how the money flows in such a large project like that, it affects the way that you think about a project. And I think that for me, it really helped me make effective decisions that weren't always based on what is the pretty choice. It's like, okay, I know that I could only do X, Y, and Z in the envelope that I'm given because of how the project is structured. And so when I got a little bit like higher up in the company as the years went on, the team that wound up working under me, I thought it was very important for me to explain to them how these projects are financially structured so that they could integrate that way of thinking into their own minds. Because when we go to school, you're taught heavily in concepts. And so you have to really understand how to bridge conceptual design and what you want the feeling and aesthetic to be with the reality of how these types of projects get built and funded. The first thing that I focus on when I am starting to design a new project is what's the landscape? Where is the building located, the house, whatever the project is, like what are the surroundings and what story are we telling? So when I'm working with my private clients, it's very interesting to be able to have emotionally driven conversations with the types of clients, the types of private clients that I work with. A lot of them are like very, high-powered, successful private equity guys. Some of them are politicians. And I think that I get the opportunity to ask them questions about their private family life that they probably don't get asked very often. So like there's an art form to having that conversation because as the designer, I need to know how they want to wake up in the morning, what's important to them. Are they right-handed or left-handed? Like what the relationship is with their family, how many kids, how many people are in the house. And then we kind of build a story around that. A lot of times those commercial clients come to me to do their private homes. And then it's like a sit down, different conversation where I'm like, okay, you were the boss in this other scenario, but now I'm the boss because, when you're making decisions for somebody's private home, it's such a different landscape than a commercial building. Now we're talking about emotional decisions that are not always captured by a line item budget. So, you may have clients who are investing into their home in a way that they would never invest into a commercial development project. So, when those clients cross over from commercial to private, we have to have a conversation about that because sometimes their mentality is still like, oh, I need a budget line item spreadsheet. And like, yes, of course you do, there's realities, but the conversation takes a shift from very pragmatic to, okay, but we need to pay attention to some of the emotional needs. I worked on a very large building conversion on East 29th Street in Midtown in Manhattan. And that building had about 500 apartments in it. And we converted that building from one owner to a new owner, a new developer. And the building had to be completely gut renovated by blocks of floors at a time. And so navigating the logistics of that, creating a grid for the building and understanding where people are living and having to renovate both vertically and horizontally, depending on like whose leases were. So that was defining for me in a sense that I feel like after doing that in a 50-story tower, there's pretty much nothing that would intimidate me after that. Like, I'm good. You can't throw anything at me that would scare me. And then on the private side, I just finished designing one of the largest private homes I've ever taken on at about 23,000 square feet. And that project was a ground up project. And we designed all of the interiors. It was incredible. Not just the interiors, but all the furniture, all the decor. We helped with the art selections. That was just a 3.5-year process, and it was just with all love. We're always projecting into the future, right? Because the projects that we work on are fairly large. So I'm projecting out into the future by about 24 months all the time. I think that today we have my clients and the clients of my clients, so like the buyers and renters of the bigger buildings that we're working on, we're just dealing with an overall population who are much more savvy now than they were 10 years ago, because you get hit with information on Instagram, on TikTok all day, every day. So I think that the trend overall is that people in general are not afraid of color, pattern, or things that would be considered in the past as like risky. I don't I don't see, I mean, maybe there's a couple of specific trends. Like, I really like to use plum tones right now. And I don't see that going anywhere for the next few years. I think that I consider it to be a neutral, but it still gives like that layered, very rich, beautiful feeling to it. That's one specific thing. Something that I have been seeing that I understand, but I cannot wrap my head around is the fabric curtains underneath the sink. No, look, I think that if you can't clean it with Windex in a kitchen, I'm not sure if I would put fabric under my sink. Aesthetically, I don't really love it. I don't think it's practical. It looks kind of cute, but that's one trend that I cannot get behind. I'm sorry, don't come for me. Because we have so many private projects like coming to completion this year, and all of our clients are so happy moving into their new homes, we are starting a decor business. I'm not going to give more detail until later, but that's a little hint of what's to come. One thing that I think people would be surprised to learn about me is that I really like video games. I'm a Nintendo girl. When I was a kid, my dad, like in the late 80s, my dad, was a young guy and he always had Nintendo, And so me and my sister were always playing Nintendo and like we'd never stop.